topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Missouri and Tennessee, some of the most beautiful states in the United States. Welcome to the Ask the Expert show, where we bring you, for the last 16 years, the top experts in their field in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I kind of pre-warned our expert who's coming up. I might be embarrassing him. But first, before I do that, I want to say we got a letter the other day from a gentleman who is a doctor in Missouri, who is a huge podcast fan, loves different types of podcasts. And he told me that he found it's the law firm of Lance Drury's show last month. And he said, normally I'll listen to about 10 minutes of a show. He said, I found myself not only listening to the entire show, which I never do, but it left me wanting more. It was the nicest letter, but that's not what I wanted to forewarn my expert about. We've been doing this show for 16 years. Believe it or not, I've got some experts who've been with us 12. One of them's been with us 15 years. And when you have a show that long, your views always go up. But I got to tell you, this law firm, the law firm of Lance Drury, they started with us about a year ago. And last month, I could not believe when I had to look at the numbers again. We had over 2,000 views just on YouTube, and I could not believe this show has grown so fast. It is our second most popular show, but the number one has been with us for 15 years. Good afternoon, Attorney Lance Drury.
Good to see you again, Steve. It's always a great pleasure to be here and to listen to the questions that everybody brings to the table here. I'm glad to be doing this. I'm glad to be with you, Steve.
Well, I got to tell you, we are so lucky to have you. This show is going to definitely grow. We have 30 shows we do. This show is going to grow to our number one show. But what's so amazing, it's in such a short time. But tell people about your firm. You've got such an incredible story.
Well, Steve, we represent individuals and businesses who have tax problems with the IRS and various state taxing agencies as well. That's what we do. We do the whole gamut: installment agreements, offers in compromise, currently non-collectible, identity theft, audits, criminal investigation. We even represent people in state court who have not paid their sales taxes to the taxing authorities. And most people don't know this, Steve. It's a crime not to pay your sales tax because they figured you were just collecting the money for the state. The money was never yours, so they view it as stealing. But that's what we do. That's what we're here for. Steve, I got a surprise for you. You're not gonna believe this. Tomorrow, I have 3 appointments in St. Louis, and Sunday morning I have 2 appointments in St. Genevieve. So we're going to keep going here. It's that time of year, Steve. It's tax season. So, and the IRS is coming out again, and they're levying people again, and the time frames are collapsing. They're now employing artificial intelligence. So you get those threatening letters, Well, there's about 4 or 5 before they can levy you. But now the time frames are getting closer and closer. And last year, the IRS doubled the amount of money they collected from delinquent taxpayers from 2024. So everything's going great guns. I got great people working for me, and we certainly love helping people out with their tax problems.
It's obvious. I got to tell you our first question, and please take as long as you want because it's a very broad question, but it's from Craig in Nashville. He said, I can't believe I found your show. I have been in the market because I'm in trouble with the IRS. He said, I think this question will help me as well. It will help others. By listening to your last show, it seems like you have a lot of ammunition in your bag to fight the IRS. Can you go over all the things you have in your bag? I'll call it your bag of tricks to go against the IRS. I know there's many things. Do you mind sharing that with us?
No, I mean, we stop levies all the time. We know how to stop levies. And, a lot of people don't know this, but there are times when you don't want to file a collection due process hearing request, which is the one within 30 days of the final notice of intent to levy. Sometimes you want to wait after that 30 days and request what's called an equivalency hearing. And why would we do that? Because the IRS does not have forever to collect the tax against you. And guess what? You file a collection due process hearing request, that tolls the statute on collections. But if you file an equivalency hearing request, the clock keeps running. So if you're within a year or two of the clock running out, you want to file the equivalency hearing because the IRS is so far behind. It is now taking forever to get those hearings scheduled. You can run out 9 months or longer on collections just by doing that. That's one of the tricks in our arsenal. But the biggest one is, this is all based on your ability to pay it back. So one of the things that we can do in a lot of cases is to give people advice on how to structure their assets, how to structure their expenses so they can get a better deal out of Uncle Sam. I'm just going to give you one small example. Several years ago, a woman came to me. She owed a little over $40,000 to the IRS. And we went through the financials 3-4 times. We have to do that. We got to make sure the numbers are accurate because the taxpayer is submitting those under penalties of perjury. So we did this 3 or 4 times, like I said, and it showed you could pay $600 a month to the IRS, where there were still 4 years running on the statute for collection. So it would have meant she would have paid 30% or $30,000 back of the $40,000 debt liability with the IRS. So she would have paid about 3/4 of it back. So I called her up one day. I said, you need to go out and buy a new car. She goes, they're going to let me buy a new car when I owe them all this money? I said, you got a car with 200,000 miles. I set you up on $600 a month. The car is going to break down. You're going to pay the repair bill. You're not going to be able to pay Uncle Sam. Then you've wasted all your money in hiring me because they're going to default your agreement. So she went out, got a new car, paid $500 a month for the new car, had a reliable vehicle. That's a necessary and reasonable expense in determining the taxpayer's ability to pay. And she paid $100 a month to the IRS over 4 years. So she paid less than $5,000 over time on a $40,000 plus debt.
Wow.
So that's the other thing that we can do. A lot of times we run out the statute, but don't make the mistake of thinking you can do this on your own. To the gentleman in Nashville, I just had a guy in Nashville. And he'd been wrestling with the IRS forever. He was on his 4th revenue officer. So he thought he could do this on his own. And I was going to charge him a lot of money. The retainer was going to be $25,000. He owed $1 million.
Oh.
He didn't hire us. 2 weeks later, they took every asset he owned, including every last dime of his retirement. And he was 55 years old, and he has nothing left. So do not make the mistake of thinking you can do this on your own, because here's what happens. And I've said this before on this show, Steve. You know, people think they can do it on their own. So they call up the IRS, they set up an agreement, then they call me. And the first words out of their mouth are, I can't afford to make the monthly payment. And I go, then why did you agree to do this? And they say, well, this is what the IRS told me I had to pay them. That's not right. That's wrong. They take advantage of lay people. It's all based on your ability to pay it back. 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime. But in addition to getting you the best deal possible on your IRS debt, we're also going to make sure that you're compliant moving forward, because you've got to be 100% compliant once you have an agreement with the IRS, or they're going to default the agreement. And finally, the other thing is we're going to make sure you don't get your bank account wiped out, and they don't take 90% of your take-home pay. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, Steve, but I think it's a good start in answering it. So
Absolutely.
I'm going to leave it there.
Okay. Tracy in Knoxville. Should a business that owes back taxes immediately file all required returns, then establish a payment plan?
Yes, you have to file the return. You have to file the returns at least the last 6 years, or they won't even talk to you about a payment plan or any other type of agreement. So you've got to become compliant. And for IRS purposes, their regulations state that in order to be in compliance, you have to file the last 6 years tax returns. And I want to thank you for the question, because here is something somebody's going to learn from this when I say this. It is a huge mistake to prepare your tax return, see that you're going to owe a lot of money, know that you're not going to be able to afford to pay all of it back, and not file the return. People do this all the time. They think, oh my God, I can't pay it, so I'm not going to file it. Here's why it's a bad idea. There's a failure to file penalty. It's 5% per month for the first 5 months that you're late on your filing, and that's 5% of the raw tax. So it maxes out at 25%. Well, what does that mean? If you got tax liability of $10,000, you've just increased it to $12,500. And we even haven't talked yet about the penalties for failure to pay and for interest. So no matter what, file your return. File your return. Plus, it's a crime not to file your tax return. So I can't tell anybody not to file their tax returns.
William in Chattanooga, a few of my friends hired what I call those big firms with their big ads and their celebrities. They had the worst experience going through them. What is the difference between your firm and these big national companies that I say make many false promises? That's a good one.
We do the work. We do the work. I work almost every Saturday and Sunday, and I'm 72 years old. And I have attorneys in my employ that do the same thing. I tell everybody in the initial consult, if you don't hire me, there's 3 rules. You hire an attorney that does this every single day. Accountants are great with the numbers, but we've all seen accountants give atrocious advice to their clients about how to deal with the IRS. And why is that? Because they only dabble in it. 90% of what an accountant does is tax preparation. We spend 50 to 100 years or more, Steve, just keeping up with what's going on with the IRS. Number 2, go local. And number 3, don't hire one of the big boys. Like this guy said, there's a lot of scam artists out there. They just take your money. They don't do the work. And most of them don't even tell you what they're going to charge you. Exactly. They'll just keep asking for money month after month after month. And I do the initial consults. I'm an attorney. I have my attorneys do those that are under 50,000 because we have so many. But, you know, most of those big companies, they don't have an attorney talking to you in the initial consult. They hire salespeople to do that. Well, we don't do that. We do it all ourselves, so you know who you're going to be talking to and dealing with, and you're going to know what our track record is. You can go to my website. You can see the speeches I've given across the country, the books I've co-authored, You can see the award I won from the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers in 2016, and you can see all the testimonials. So go there. There's a lot of great free information on my website as well for everybody.
Julie in Kansas City wants to know, have you ever seen the contract form that these other big companies have you sign? The reason I ask is I have been listening to your show for the last few months, and I did hire one of these companies, and I am so unhappy with them. Is it difficult to get out of my contract and re-sign with you? Oh, that's a good question.
Well, I don't know what your contract reads. Every firm's probably got a different contract. So I don't know about that, but you should be able to get out of the contract at any time. You can always hire. You can always get rid of your attorney, hire a different attorney. It's very important that you're comfortable with the attorney that you hire. But really, they should only get paid for the work that they've done. And so, so you could certainly hire us. And, if you sign a power of attorney with us, that power of attorney will automatically revoke their power of attorney, and they'll no longer have any authority to deal with the IRS on your behalf.
Lance, do you ever have people hire you to give them a second opinion?
I have had people come to me and ask me questions about certain things. I'm not so sure that it's strictly a second opinion, but I got to tell you, I had a guy in San Antonio. He came to me a year ago, September. It'll be 2 years this September. And he hired an attorney out of Houston who also has an office in San Antonio. And I've heard the guy's name before. I'd never heard anything bad about the guy. But he asked me about collection, due process hearings, notice of deficiencies, because that attorney had never sat down and explained it. I sat and talked to him for about 50 minutes, and he was so grateful. And I said, go back to this guy. If you have another problem again, give us a call. A year later, he called us back. He was being audited. They're doing a lot of these ranches in southern Texas, because what's happening is they're losing money every year on the ranch.
Mm.
So what the IRS is going to say is it's a hobby and you can't take the loss, if you go X amount of years. So that's what's happening. We did an audit. We saved him all kinds of money, but he paid us a $50,000 retainer, and we've gotten additional monies from him since then. And so he is very pleased with the work that we have done with him. My San Antonio attorney, Amir Tavangar, that guy works 50, 60 hours every week. He's working nights. When he was living in LA, and Steve, he had to get out of Los Angeles because of the state income tax rate.
Yes.
That was killing him. So he said, I'm going to Texas or Florida. I said, well, come to Texas. You can run the San Antonio office. So he's there, and he'll work nights. He works late. He is as dedicated employee as I've ever had. And, this guy is really happy to have Amir on his side. And I'm happy that Amir's on my side as well, Steve.
Well, he's going to be happy to hear. We've started discussing it. We're going to be adding your show, especially your show in Texas and San Antonio and Florida, our Hispanic version. We'll be adding that. So we'll be picking up a whole new audience, because we get so many people writing us, how come you don't do a show in Spanish? And that's what happens when you get a popular show. Let me get back to the questions. This is a great one. This is from Cindy in Kansas City. She said, I want to tell people that I am a business owner, and since I found your show, I never miss one. I wish you would talk more on businesses. Well, we have started doing that. Thank you for educating us. I'm curious, can the IRS take my personal assets like my silver and gold?
Well, that depends on how your business is structured. Now, the IRS isn't really in the business of seizing assets. They go after paychecks. They go after bank accounts because they're easy. But, they very seldom take somebody's home. It might happen 70, 80, 90 times a year. But they're not going to come out and seize like your motor vehicle, because then they got to get rid of it. and they're not in the business of selling assets and all of that. But here's the answer to your question. In terms of if your personal assets are at risk, it depends on the type of business entity you have. If you have a corporation or you're a multi-member LLC, they can only come after the assets in those entities. They can't come after your personal stuff. But if you're a sole proprietor, they can come after your personal assets because you don't have a separate legal entity for your business then. So sole proprietor, your personal assets are fair game because everything's going to flow through a Schedule C on your Form 1040, which is your personal tax return. But if you're a corporation, they're only looking at the assets of the corporation and the income of the corporation. However, Steve, if there's unpaid payroll taxes and they determine that you're the responsible party, that is, that you knew the tax or should have known the tax wouldn't be paid, and if you own the business, you should know whether the taxes are being paid or not, and that you're involved in the day-to-day affairs of the business, the portion of the payroll tax that's attributable to the employee, they can come after you for that portion of the payroll tax. It's called the trust fund civil penalty, and it's generally 50 to 60% of the total payroll tax. And the significance of that then is, Steve, now they're not looking at just the business assets or the business income. Now they're looking at seizing your personal assets and taking your personal income.
Wow.
So that's the problem with payroll. Payroll is a big priority for the IRS because they don't want people to keep pyramiding that liability. They want you to shut down if you can't pay your taxes every year.
You know, I don't know why I just thought about this. We've been doing this show for nearly a year now. And do you know with all the letters we get, no one has ever stumped you. You've had a great comeback for every question. We ought to make the show called Stump You. But listen, I got to tell you, we got about a minute left, and I want to thank you. You do such a great job. You know, God love you. You work so hard. You're building up this incredible company. And I just want to thank you. I know we get a lot of people thanking us for your show, but I just want to personally thank you. You have made this such a great show. And we do a national show the first Monday of the month at 8:25 Central Time. And we also do another show for San Antonio, the Texas area. But Lance, I just want to thank you. I know God brought us to you, and people, I want you to know, do not talk to the IRS.
Hooray!
You'll only get yourself in deeper hole. Lance, tell people how they can reach you.
Well, I don't know all the phone numbers, but they are at the bottom of the screen. But for those of you that aren't privy to that, go to lancedrurylaw.com. You'll find several different ways that you can reach me on that website. We're here to help you. We're here to protect you from the clutches of what I call King Kong. I tell everybody I'm the guy that saves Fay Ray from the clutches of King Kong. And Steve, I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad you found me. I'm glad we can do this all the time now, 3 times a month. I just love it.
Thank you, Lance. Have a wonderful weekend. And hey, we'll see you soon, first Monday in April.
Sounds great.
Okay, take care. Hey, that's attorney Lance Drury. Folks, I'm telling you, do not go to the IRS on your own. You need help like attorney Lance Drury. That's going to do it for us for now. We have a commercial we're going to go to. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.